What's up, my fellow harmonic traders? Welcome back to Track the Harmonic, your go-to destination for all things harmonic technical analysis. I'm your host, Lord MC. In today's video, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of harmonic technical analysis, as well as breaking down the upcoming week's economic landscape. We'll be dissecting key indicators such as the Consumer Price Index, the Producer Price Index, retail sales, and building permits. So these economic metrics are like the heartbeat of the market, offering vital clues about the health and direction of the economy. The CPI measures the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a basket of consumer goods and services, whereas PPI, on the other hand, gauges the average change over time in the selling prices received by domestic producers for their output. Retail sales provides insights into consumer spending, which is a crucial component of economic activity, while building permits offer a glimpse into the construction sector, reflecting trends in real estate and infrastructure development. So understanding these key indicators is very important to see what the market may do in the next weeks to come. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on the latest video. I also want to preface by saying I am not a financial advisor. None of the things I say in my videos or anywhere else is ever financial advice, so question everything, do your own research, and come out with your own conclusions. So having said that, let's jump right into the charts. Jumping over to SPY here, so the market had a very interesting week, especially after 7 green days of upwards action. You did manage to get a red candle close for this week, but on Friday you managed to close with the highest volume of the week, and you were able to complete the type 1 reaction all the way to target 2, above it I should say, because it did close above 440.25. It closed on Friday at 440.61. So what can we expect moving forward here from the bullish bat pattern for the SPY? As I bring out my drawings here, the next thing I would be looking for is see if this is going to come back for a reversal, because we did generate an HSI arrow to the downside. We know after a completion of the type 1 reaction you could come back down for a potential type 2 return to hop. Doesn't mean it has to go all the way down there, but it could. So we'd like to see a few days of maybe some rejection above around 440, maybe to come back down to enter that gap there around 433 and complete it, and then see if it doesn't hold that area to come back down for the type 2 return to target 1 at 428, BCF 417.94, and then XA, and then hop. Doesn't have to go all the way down there, but obviously time will tell. So from here, what I want to see is just a couple of days close below 440.25 to indicate that a potential reversal is incoming, as the HSI is completely overbought, as well as the RSI. So if we jump over to the weekly here real quick, we did have decrease in volume on the weekly. So one of the levels I'm going to be watching here in case it does want to continue pushing up is that 443 level there on the SPY, and then 446. Above 446, you'd be looking to potentially enter the gap there around 453, because there is a gap there at around 455 and change. So I do think right now, if there is more upside here, the RSI is still not overbought yet, but on the lower macro time frames here, like the 4-hour, you are a bit overbought. So maybe you come back down, maybe to retest the entrance of the gap there that it left on Friday the 3rd, and see if you find some support there, and then continue pushing above that level. So to the upside, if it does decide just to consolidate here into CPI, and if bullish CPI does come out with good data here, then you could potentially see more upwards action here for the SPY. I'd be looking, like I said, at 443 and then 446. To get really bullish on the SPY, you need to break above 453.63 in my opinion, 453.67, fill that gap at 455 and change, and then you can maybe see 465 down the line. As the dragon pattern would also come back for that type 2 return to OPR, but still too early to tell. So definitely keep an eye out on the SPY, especially with CPI, PPI. So if there is a rejection here, I do see a potential retracement back down to maybe the 200 SMA, maybe gap fill around 423.70. So you could bounce off of there. Maybe you come back down from the swing low to the swing high. Anywhere between the 618 would come down to 421, fill that gap, or the 50% retracement of that would be around 424, exactly where the 200 SMA is at. So we'll see if that is the case. So keep an eye out on the SPY. Jumping over to the triple Qs here. So the triple Q is also a very bullish close on Friday, where you were able to close above a key target here for me at 377.10. So what can we expect here? There's no current harmonic pattern here except for the dragon pattern and the bat pattern, which is a little bit overextended past the 30-bar rule. So what can we expect here? So you did not generate an HSI arrow like you did on the SPY here. So I would like to see if this is going to be a level of resistance here. If you do and you get some volume to the downside, you might generate that HSI arrow, as the HSI is completely overbought, and the same with the AMP RSI. In case it doesn't, maybe you come back down to retest this level. Maybe you come as down as a test of 9 EMA at 368. You bounce off that level, reset some of the indicators on the like the 4 macro time frames, 1 to 4 hour, where it's completely overbought. You find support and you continue pushing back above 386.41, and then to complete the type 2 return to OPR there at 397.03. So if we go over to the weekly here, the weekly is on decreasing volume similar to the SPY here. You do have an alt bat pattern, but it looks like you are breaking this, what looks like a bull flag. I did mention this. I wanted to mention this in my previous video, my last video actually, but unfortunately I could not upload that because I had some issues here. But it looks like it is breaking off of this bull flag, and this bull flag could actually extend close to above XA there. So we'll see if that is the case, because right now it looks like it is breaking out of that bull flag and continuing to the upside. So if I take a target here from the top of the trend line up to this level here, you can see it, yeah, just around, the target would be around XA at 387.11, right where I do also have a key target there, macro harmonic target from I believe a year ago at 386.41. So if that is the case, then you can see more upside on the triple Qs to retest hop there at 403.57, and then you potentially have all-time highs here for the triple Qs. So very interesting to see where the triple Qs takes us, especially as this whole past week, just tech sector has been completely dominating here. To the downside, if you do get an HSI arrow and you get rejected here, and then you have volume increasing on bad CPI data and PPI, you can come back down to 363. Maybe you fill that gap around 357, where there's another small gap around 351, and come back to retest the 200 EMA and SMA. So definitely interesting what the CPI is going to say, as well as the whole credit rating as well, if it's going to have any significant impact. So only time will tell. So keep an eye on the Qs. Jumping over to the Dow Jones here. So something that's very interesting here for the Dow Jones compared to the other two indices, SPY and Qs, is that on Friday's volume, it actually was on decreasing volume, where the other two were on increasing volume to the upside. You did have a little bit of a resistance level here at 343.01. I just have a macro harmonic resistance level at that area. So right now it does have a little bit of more room to push up to the upside before it reaches the overbought zones. So if we do see more upside here in the Dow Jones, I'd be looking for this to fill the gap here around 344 and change, and then to complete the type 1 reaction to target 2 at 345.97. If you do manage to get, if you push up to that target area, that's where I would think you would come and generate a reversal candle. Maybe an HSI arrow starts printing around that level, as you still got room on the amp RSI to push up again, even though at this area here where you were over the overbought conditions here, you managed to come back down and not reset everything, and you did have that HSI arrow and dot there to confirm, but you pushed higher. So the only thing that what this is a little bit concerning here for the longs here is that you pushed higher but on decreasing volume. So we'll see if this is actually going to continue before it actually maybe prints a HSI arrow at the target 2 here and comes back down. Otherwise, if you do have some resistance here at the entrance of the gap, you could generate an HSI arrow early, come back down for target 1, retest at 339.34, fill the gap where you do have a bit of support here. You should have all these EMAs and SMAs are kind of touching here, holding support, and you also have a golden cross here on the Dow Jones. So if there's any more upside, you could just see this continue going past target 2 there, all the way to 357.74 as a key level that I'm looking at, especially if it breaks 345.35 if CPI is also bullish. So if we jump over to the weekly is on decreasing volume, but you generated an HSI dot. So right now I'm just looking at these levels here. For it to be really bullish, you could break above 345.37 and it can go for a little jog all the way up to 357.74 on the macro. If it doesn't, you hit resistance and you could come back down, maybe to fill these gaps that it left. So we'll see if that is the case. Jumping over to IWM here. So IWM continues to get volume. So what can we expect moving forward for the Russell 2000 off of this bullish sea crab? So just wanted to mention that on Wednesday you did generate an HSI arrow to the downside, and Thursday you had follow through where you were able to close below XA there. Luckily on Friday you were able to manage a close above XA at 169.11. So to the upside, what can we expect here? If that is going to be a hammer candle reversal to the upside, you could expect to test 173, 174. Above that, obviously, you have target 1 here to complete the type 1 reaction at 177.67, and then you have the 200 EMA and SMA around 180 and 181, and then all the way to target 2 to complete that scalper's dream for the type 1 reaction at target 2 at 185.72. Obviously, you need a lot of things to come to fruition for IWM to continue pushing above 185 right now is having a bit of a hard time. So what can we expect here if it doesn't find support at these areas? And in fact, this is a resistance level at the 9 EMA. If you're able to close below XA here at 168.49, the next level I'd be looking at is to complete that gap there around 165 and change, and then test these levels here around 161, and then at worst come back down all the way to hop at 160.42. Below that, then you obviously get very bearish, where there is a gap there around 156 and change. You did cross the HSI midline on Friday, so we'll see if that actually comes all the way down to the oversold condition. So on the weekly, if we look at this again, you do have a decrease in volume to the sell side, so maybe that's an indication that there is seller exhaustion here. So we'll see if that is the case moving forward with CPI. So definitely keep an eye out on IWM. Jumping over to XLF here, so the banking sector looks a bit bullish right now. You did get an increase in volume, starting to get an increase in volume here towards the end of the week, last week. So what can we expect here for XLF? To complete the type 1 reaction is to test 34.05. You did manage to get an HSI arrow and dot on Thursday, but you were validating that move as you break above the 200 EMA and SMA here for XLF. So above 34.05, the next level I'd be looking to push above here is that gap fill that it left here around 34.46 and change. And then above that, you come and test that $35 range. If you do manage to get an HSI arrow at the completion of target 2 here at 34.05, you could come back down all the way for a type 2 return to test 33.02, right where the 21 EMA is at, and then the gap fill at 32 and change, and then all the way back down to 31.77, gap fill all the way to 31.07, then hop at 30.63. If we jump over to the weekly here, you did manage to close on decrease in volume, what looks like to be a hammer candle. So we did get some news that Moody's did downgrade, or I should say not downgraded, but they lowered their outlook for the U.S. credit. So we'll see if that has any effect in the financial markets in the coming week, or even at open on Monday. So definitely keep an eye out on XLF. Jumping over to XLE here. So XLE had a very bearish week. It continues to sell off here, but it did manage to hold support above a key harmonic level target that I had here at 82.51. So it is decreasing from Thursday to Friday, and this could be a reversal candle. Still too early to tell, but if it does reverse here, the next thing I'd be looking at to see if it comes back up is test that HSI midline, which would bring it around the 9 EMA, around 84.50, 84.40s and change. If you do manage to have some resistance there, then you could come back down to complete the type 1 reaction at target 2 at 81.77. Below that, then this obviously gets very bearish. You can come back down to 77.35, 75.70, and then there's a gap fill all the way into the $73 range. If you manage to get that reversal candle, the next level I'd be looking would be obviously the 9 EMA at 84.50, the test of the 200 EMA around 85.16, where there's also a gap, and then come back and reclaim target 1 at 85.73. If we go over to the weekly here, that is an engulfing candle. Not ideally the best setup here. Would have liked to see if there's continuation to the downside. I would have liked to see that engulfing candle be on higher volume. So definitely keep an eye. Similar volume you had last week. 2 weeks ago you had 110 million volume, where this week you closed on 106. So ideally for my setup here, I would have liked this to be a higher volume, but we'll see. We do have this bearish, I believe this is a bearish bat, if I'm not mistaken, a bearish crab pattern. So you are slightly below BC here, and you're slightly below the 50 EMA here. So if you don't manage to hold support at this range, then you can come back down, like I said, to $73, retest the 200 EMA there around 71 and change. So definitely keep an eye out on crude oil as well to see if right now, let's see if we take a look here, crude oil is at $76 a barrel. So definitely keep an eye out on XLE here. Jumping over to Apple. So Apple, what a crazy run it's had the past 2 weeks here. It's on its 10th day of just continuing pushing up here. So you did have a red candle close on Thursday, but Friday you had an increase in volume, and you were able to come back up here, reclaim PT1 this week at 182, and are now going to complete the type 1 reaction again at PT2 at 188.19. So you did manage to break above 182.94, which was a resistance level I had there, and you did hit resistance there on Wednesday and Thursday, but Friday obviously you broke above that. So the next level I'd be looking here for Apple, if it continues to push, even though the RSI is about to reach above 70 here. The AMP RSI and the HSI are completely overbought. So let's just assume it continues to push up here. The next level I'd be looking would be to complete the type 1 reaction at PT2 at 188.19, where the last time it hit up there, it kind of had some resistance, right? So it's kind of interesting that you're going to maybe retest this level here where you did generate an HSI arrow September the 6th here with high volume. So as the HSI, AMP RSI, and RSI are kind of overbought here, so you could potentially reverse here at this level at 188, come back down maybe to retest 184.95, 182.94, PT1 there and find support and then continue pushing. Obviously pushing above that, you have this gap fill around 191 and change, and then you have another gap fill here at 195, kind of close to where BC is at, and then you got all-time highs there at 198. This is all-time highs was at 198.23, so we'll see if that is the case. But if you do manage to get some volume here to the downside and you get an HSI arrow, I do think you can at least come back down to these ranges here. So definitely keep an eye out on Apple because it's very close to all-time highs. If we jump over to the weekly here, you also have kind of similar to what the Qs is having here with the bull flag, and it's actually breaking above here. So if there is continuation here to the upside, if CPI and data is bullish, then watch out for Apple, because I do think it has a potential shot for an all-time high, and maybe that psychological level at 200. So keep an eye out on Apple. Jumping over to Microsoft here, so obviously very bullish close, as Microsoft did generate new all-time highs here where it closed at 369.67 on Friday with increase in volume. Obviously the RSI, HSI, more specifically the RSI and the AMP RSI right now are completely overbought. So what can we expect here for Microsoft? So from the previous 52-week all-time highs here, not this one I should say, the all-time highs back then in November the 21st, right, where you take a fib retracement all the way down to the 52-week lows when you came down here in November. The 127% retracement of that is at 386.73. So that's a level I'd be looking at for Microsoft to continue pushing higher. Obviously, right now you're completely overextended, so you could have a bit of a cooling period here. Maybe you start consolidating as this is uncharted territory. One thing I want to mention is that I think there's a potential, I'm just looking at here, just a W formation, there might be a potential bearish pattern forming. So I'm just going to take a tool here to see if I could gauge what harmonic pattern this would be. So this looks like this could be a shark pattern, a bearish shark pattern. So this could obviously extend higher here, so we still don't know if this could go move on this much, or this is going to reverse at this level. But if this is a bearish harmonic pattern and you do get a potential reversal candle here, you could come back down to these levels here. So we'll definitely see if that is the case. Let me just turn on the HPC indicator here to see if there is a potential pattern forming. And taking a little while to load. There it is. Oh yeah, so shark pattern. So it's a potential, it's a pending pattern. We'll see if it actually completes there and it generates, but there is a bearish harmonic pattern forming where it's indicating a reversal may be incoming. Obviously it's too early to tell. For the shark pattern here, similar, yeah, shark pattern here, hop is at 368.74. So you came up to that level, which is kind of crazy to see. So we'll see if more upside here is left here for Microsoft. So definitely keep an eye on Microsoft. Jumping over to Amazon here. So Amazon did have a white swan and a bullish shark pattern here. The shark pattern actually completed this type 1 reaction above target 2 at 142.72, and you did have on Friday with increase in volume. So what can we expect here for Amazon to the upside? The next level I'd be looking at would be a retest of point A here at the high at 145.86. Above that, then you can get very bullish here for Apple, and you could come back all the way up to 170 here. So it's still too early for me to say that right now, but if we look here at the bat pattern, you do have this bat pattern where you broke above XA at 139.14. Next level it's calling here would be around, like I said, 145 and change. Then hop at 155.75 above that. Then I do see this go to the 170s again. So rejection off of this level here. You could come back down to test a 139.14 XA, the 200 SMA at 137, and then 130 as well. You do have a golden cross here for Amazon, and you did cross the HSI midline. So we'll see if there's more continuation on Amazon. From the looks of it, at least on the weekly perspective here, this is obviously on the week. On the weekly, it could take a bit more time to play out, but it looks a little bit bullish here as a breakout seems to be happening here. But we'll see if data has something to say about that. Obviously, on the daily here, more on the macro here, rejection off of 142.72. You could come back all the way down to 131.11, where you do have a potential type 2 return playing out all the way down to OPR there at 113.96 down the line. Obviously, it's going to take some time to play out, but you can see here at the HSI, it's coming back down. So we'll see if this is going to find some support around the HSI midline, which could be just roughly where the 50 EMA and SMA are at. So definitely keep an eye on Amazon, because if it does decide to get more volume here to the upside, it can get very interesting for Amazon. Jumping over to Tesla here. So Tesla had a very interesting week. It's still not having a good time here around this level here, the 9 EMA specifically. It did manage to try to break above the 200 SMA here on Thursday, but got rejected at the 200 SMA with an HSI arrow off of increase in volume. So on Monday, you did try to close above the 9 EMA, but the 9 EMA is now resistance, and now it's on decreasing volume. So the HSI looks like it's coming down back down to test that midline, and that midline you could bring it down here to maybe this low here around 194. It's still too early to tell. You do have that death cross approaching for the EMAs here for Tesla. So to the upside, you definitely want to have volume increasing. Maybe you bounce off the midline somewhere around where that gap is at, or that gap it left here. It did fill it this week. So maybe you find some support at 205 here off the midline, and then continue pushing up higher. You definitely want to close above target 1 here at 223.85. Reclaim the 200 EMA around 229 and change, and then gap fill here around 247. For me to get bullish back again for Tesla, you need to reclaim 253.80. Harmonically speaking, that's a good level where every time you broke above it, you go up to test that 270 range. But a little bit ways to go for us to reach around 253.80. If we jump over to the weekly here, you do have the bat pattern and resistance here at 223.85. So it's getting very tight here. The EMAs are starting to curl down on the weekly. It's very tight between the 50 EMA and the 200 SMA here. So kind of sandwiched in. We'll see if this is actually going to find some support here. You do have that double top there, but it's getting very tight here for Tesla. Off of the bat pattern, if it does manage to hold support above the 200 SMA, then you, like I said, you need to reclaim 223 and then break above 253.80, and then you could come back for a type 2 return to hop at 343.69 if that is the case. You do have that gap fill around 288, 287 and change, right where XA is at. Obviously rejection off that level. Then target 2 to complete the type 1 reaction here is at target 2 at 177. Type 1 reaction at 177.25. Right now, just from this formation here, it looks like it's just creating lower lows and lower highs. So definitely keep an eye out on Tesla if there's more downside for the stock. Jumping over to Google here. So Google did get an increase in volume on Friday. It looks like an engulfing candle. So you definitely want to see, when you have an engulfing candle with higher volume, you definitely want to see that. So that could potentially be signs of continuation to the upside. So you do have this white swan pattern where you came below it here, obviously, and you also had this bearish D crab where you completed the type 1 reaction to target 2, and right now it looks like you could be headed for that type 2 return back up to potentially hop. So the next level for Google to the upside would be to fill this gap here around 137.50. That's where the XA is at. Obviously, there's going to be some resistance here on the way up here on the 50 SMA, close to PT1 for 134.28. But if you're able to manage to close above that, then you can see the gap fill at 137.50, then all the way up to hop at 143.41. Rejection off of this level, you could come back down. It looks like a potential rising wedge here. You could come back down to that 129.35 and then 124 even there. Maybe test the 200 EMA where it found support. Losing that obviously would come back down to test the 200 SMA at 118, where there is a gap fill all the way at 113 should it lose that level. So right now the HSI is a bit overbought. So you could generate an HSI arrow at maybe around the 50 SMA, maybe PT1 there at 134 and change. If we go over to the weekly here, the weekly is on average volume here. It is decreasing volume compared to 2 weeks ago, but still decreasing it nonetheless. So you do have a bat pattern here. And it looks like it wants to claim back up to XA at 136.90 and then test for that type to return a hop at 152.32. So rejection off of this level here at XA. Maybe you fill the gap. You could come back down to test the 50 EMA here where it found support. It did test it here back in Monday the 23rd of that week. You came down to test it around 120.80. So if you lose that level, you could come down to fill that type 1 reaction at target 1 at 117.12 down the line. So definitely keep an eye out on Google. Jumping over to Meta here. So Meta does not have a current harmonic pattern. Let me just quickly see if there is a potential pattern forming here. I do think there could be one maybe. Looks like the HVC indicator does not see one right now yet. So what can we expect here for Meta here? The next level I'd be looking at is to retest this high here at 330.54 where you had some rejection where you tested here. You came all the way down to 279. So could be setting up here for a double top maybe as the HSI is completely overbought with the AMP RSI as well. RSI still has some wiggle room, so if anything you could continue pushing on higher. Let me just go over here to the 2-day and 3-day, see if there's any new pattern forming. Nope, but we do have the weekly here. Obviously above that level I'd be looking to test here 352 and change, kind of where C is at the high at 353.83. Above that then you come and test 100% retracement there at 384.33. So you did generate an HSI dot to the upside here. You have continuation from what it looks like on the weekly on the chart. The HSI is approached, did manage to break above that midline, so you can continue pushing higher here for Meta as you are about to get a golden cross on the SMAs here. So definitely could be a bullish setup should CPI be bullish. You can see Meta really go, so definitely keep an eye on Meta. Jumping over to NVIDIA here. So NVIDIA had a very interesting week here. Obviously continuation to the upside. Thursday you had the highest volume to the sell side, but on Friday you did push and close above the highs there on decrease in volume. So the HSI completely overshot. The same thing with the AMP RSI. Still got some room on the regular RSI. So if there's more continuation, maybe you get a reversal candle. That's where I'd be looking at around 493.76. Maybe the retest of the all-time high there at 502.66. So we'll definitely see if that is the case. He has a very huge level of resistance once it hit above 502 here. So if there is more upside here for the for NVIDIA, then it can get very interesting and create new all-time highs. So I'm definitely going to be watching this area here at 493 and change, and then that psychological level at 500, and then the all-time highs at 502. You're completely overbought right now, especially on the 4-hour. You might be getting here some bearish divergences. So if there is a bearish divergence playing out, then you could potentially come back down to test the 90 EMA here at 456 and maybe T2 there at 451.17 to see if there is a macro retest of that level. Find some support. Maybe you reset some of these overbought indicators, find support, and then continue pushing higher. Let me see if there is a new harmonic forming here on the 2 and 3 day. Looks like there isn't. So yeah, just looks like continuing buying here. So you could maybe set up here for a potential break of this downtrend. It looks like you already broke that downtrend from the weekly. You're at the 786. So yeah, you're looking for shift of momentum here. The MACD has not showed yet that it's flipping momentum, but it looks like it's very close to doing so. So definitely keep an eye on NVIDIA, because if it goes above 500, then who knows where this might go, because it's going to reach uncharted territory. So it can get very crazy. So definitely keep an eye out on NVIDIA. Jumping over to Netflix here. So Netflix off of the bullish bat pattern, completely overbought on the RSI, HSI, and AMP RSI. You might be able to get a reversal candle here, maybe a rejection off the entrance of the gap there around 457 and change 458. Maybe you come back down to reset the RSI here, come back down to test 431.42, find some support there, maybe consolidate, and then continue going. So to the upside here, the next level I'd be looking here would be point A here at 485 even there, where you generated point A there. That is a high. So above that level, you're obviously looking to fill that gap there around 508 and change. Right now you're, like I said, completely overshot on the indicators here. So maybe you do get a bit of a cooling period here. If we jump over to the weekly, decrease in volume obviously, but the weekly is still has some room on the HSI, AMP RSI, and the RSI, and you do have that gap to fill. So get very bullish here for Netflix to see if it reclaims that $508 gap there that it left back since when was this? January 2022. So above that level, if you're able to get above that $500 level, then you're looking to go to 518, 555. There is a gap fill all the way up there around 560. It looks like 565, somewhere around there, and then hop at 630. So definitely keep an eye out on Netflix, because if CPI is bullish, then I do think there's a potential for that Santa rally to start early and really go. So definitely keep an eye out on Netflix. So last but not least, we jump over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, very, very bullish as of late. You do have a bearish divergence that could be potentially playing out here, as it is overextended on the RSI. The HSI did manage to come back down, as it looks like it's testing that midline, and the AMP RSI is coming as well. It's still below, above that 70 range. So what can we see here, especially with decreasing volume here the past 3 days for Bitcoin? You could be consolidating here, waiting for that next move. What I would like to see is if for at least to come and retest some key levels here to reset some of these indicators, because I definitely don't want to be going long when things are kind of overbought. So next, if I jump over to the weekly here, a macro level that I would like to retest would be to come back down that breakout here that it got above OPR at 32.7. So I would like to see a retest where the 90 MA is at on the weekly. You would also reset the RSI, because the RSI on the weekly is a bit overextended. If I go over to the 2-day, the next level, if it in case doesn't, doesn't find resistance here, because just because the indicators are completely overbought does not mean it could continue pushing. The next level I'd be looking for Bitcoin to test would be that 40K psychological level, and then 42.3. Above that, then it can get very interesting, because you can see 50K really quickly. If you go to the 3-day, after 43, then you have 46, but then you have 50. So definitely keep an eye out on Bitcoin. I would like it to come back down slightly to reset some of these indicators, because for me personally, I would not like to get in long here. But if history repeats itself, when Bitcoin gets very bullish or crypto gets very bullish, the RSI doesn't really matter. Like you could tell here back then, when it was just hovering here from what looks like October all the way up to November, it came down, and then back in December it just traded all the way to January above the RSI there above 70. So we'll see if that is to repeat for Bitcoin again. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys. I will be streaming same time as always, Monday to Friday, from market open to market close. So if you want to catch me there, the link to my Twitch is in the description box below. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody, and peace.